Hello, good afternoon. I'm Hyun Kim. Finally, it's the last team of the conference. This conference is venue to share your research results, and then, as you know, WTA means what is to be asked. So we start from the question, how to respond to this challenge during this pandemic. So, and then Urban Flow developing the idea of the waste issue in the urban condition. So I'd like to see how you developed. Okay, let's start the last team, and then let me introduce Urban Flow team first. And then Urban Flow team conducted research on can strengthening local network balance urban flow or of resources and idea. So could you share your research?
Sure. So, hello, I'm Luke.
Oh, you can unmute. You need to unmute.
Sorry. Hello, my name's Luke. I'm a designer, and I'll talk through the process of our project. I'll start with a brief introduction to the questions, where the starting point, and then talk through some of our research, and then later we'll talk about the result which we created.
My name is Yo-Yo Jin. Sorry. Hi, internet people. I'm Yo-Yo Jin, one of the team members from Urban Flow, and I'm the way of processing our research. You guys also gonna notice at the end, but we're making game, and I'm an artist, and I'm designing character from the game. So yeah, that's my role in this team. Yeah, and next.
Hello, my name is Daye, and I'm the last member of Urban Flow. And I'm an architect, and I'm currently making a game environment for our game Daye. Thank you. Yep.
So the starting point for our project was thinking about how creating a more sustainable and resilient waste system at a local level could lead to more balance on a city scale. We wanted to learn, see what lessons can be learned from the pandemic to improve urban recycling infrastructure. There have been new challenges arising because of COVID-19 that have changed the situation. And we're also interested in thinking about how local scale work on lowering carbon footprints can create new economies and new social opportunity. So, next slide. Oh, you already went. Our original questions were, from a personal point of view, we wanted to understand how we as a designer, an architect, and an artist can meaningfully engage with communities in research projects whilst we're in a condition of social distancing and isolation because of COVID. And how we could approach urban responsibility for the environment, because the climate change and effects of climate change like biodiversity loss will inevitably contribute to future health crises even after this pandemic finishes. Then moving on, the research we conducted took place mostly in Haebangchon, and there's a very unique cultural atmosphere there and social atmosphere. So we wanted to kind of study what about that encourages individuals to be more active in pursuing their unique ideas. Move on. How do I click or scroll? Oh, yeah. So I'll talk through some quickly, because we've already discussed this in a previous conference, talk through some of our references. So our group name Urban Flow is referencing the kind of flows of different types of flow that happen in the city. So there are two main types that we identified. Flows of resources and flows of ideas. So resources being things like food or products or physical things, and ideas being more cultural and social flows. So some examples of those. Waste as one of these resources. Oh, did I skip too fast? Returning to crafts-based production rather than global production lines. Sorry, there's a lag in the scrolling, so I'm really confused. Okay. There we go. And then moving on to flows of ideas. We're interested in community empowerment, building collective responsibility, and strengthening bonds between community members. And then blending flows, systematic change, and local economy platforms. So I'll move on to our the research we conducted with different experts in the fields of community organization and waste management. So if Yo-Yo's going to talk about a few, then Daye, then I'll come back.
Since we narrowed down to a specific area called 해방촌. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm quite nervous and forgot to turn on the mute. Yeah. So since we narrowed down the area which we concentrate on the area called 해방촌, which my art studio and where I live from, since we decided to the 해방촌 to be a basement of our researches and activities where it starts from. We firstly visited the 해방촌 Regeneration Center. So there was been 5 years of since 해방촌 Regeneration Center started from. There was a lot of activity has been done. So when we visited the center, the one guy explained the whole history and also how a community specific 해방촌 has. So what kind of community 해방촌 has and what kind of vibes in this community. So we went there to we just went there to what kind of activities in that center, but we also got some idea of what kind of community around in the center. So if I explain more detail, is as you guys know that like 해방촌 is close to Itaewon, and there was where American Army basement was, and the history of 해방촌, how it built, is very foreign vibes and foreign people are there, and also culturally and historically we cannot say 해방촌 without the foreign vibes and foreign people there. But if you go into deeply and how it built, we found a very interesting point is that in 60s when 해방촌 started to build up, there was people there and how business started up. So in 60s, 해방촌 got the knit factory, so where there was 동대문 close by, and also 남대문 is very close too. So they started to build a factory which making the knits, so they can supply to the factory. So and from that, the market system has been built So that's how a famous, well-known market called 신흥시장, where all the young people come and enjoy the old and new generation vibes together. Yeah, so that's we slowly by that learning about how 해방촌 economy system built, and also we found a couple more examples of a strong community. Some of community members built their groups to do some activities, and also through regeneration center, they could form up more interesting activities, and such as gardening, and also knit designing, and also somehow some people talks about the community issues in the group. So there was lots of activities were there even before we visit the center. Yeah, and we also asked the question about how it went with the coronavirus situation, and of course there was a lot of lack of the gathering session because of COVID-19, but strangely there was new groups are formed up and start new activities in there. So actually we could find how strong this community is, and we also found interest that we only thought that like COVID-19 dropping down our activities in the community, but unexpectedly there was new groups formed up and having a good community gathering session or built in this COVID-19 situation. So that was 해방촌 Regeneration Centers about. And next one is we also interviewed one of artists who talks about how this recycling system in the in Korea's society, and we is quite surprised that now everyone knows about like only 10% of plastic has been can be recycled, and 90% is just thrown as a trash. So so this group of artists made this art piece with the iPad and also 3D structures in there, and there was like a little animation going around, and it shows about how this plastic recycling system works in our society. And also very interesting point is that because the reason why plastic has been thrown in away because of there is no value in it, which we thought, but actually plastic can be recycled many times in many ways. So they point out that plastic which we thrown it away is actually has a value in it, and they created a coin system to ideally there is a coin system which plastic can be valued and can be reused if it has like actual value in it. So the art piece talks about how we could use the plastic in a useful resources in this society. Yeah. So the point was that how it disconnected and how they explain about this plastic a situation about the plastic nowadays is because of there was some way somehow people's mind there is a kind of disconnection with the waste management. So this art piece we could learn about the recycling system and what's the way forward.
Expert was Yang Seung-hee, and she is a director of an urban planning company called Yangji Studio, located near 해방촌. we visited her right after visiting Urban Regeneration Center, wondering if all the positive things the center said about the regeneration set was true. As I expected, she had a critical view of the urban regeneration centers and their businesses. Haebangchon was the first place to have a regeneration center, and it has been 6 years since the business has been started. Since the regeneration plan was for 5 years, the government agents will leave the center this year. Yang said citizens can't make long-term projects without government planning, so many of the projects that were going on in Haebangchon will get lost. There are many reasons for the failure. For example, there was not enough time for researching for proper planning, or there was a lack of focus on realization. And all the reasons ended up in, so to say, show projects. So she asked us to think about why we are doing this project in the first place, not to be lost in the results we make. And there was also a lot of detailed information she gave about the regeneration business in reality. So anyone interested in can go to the platform to check it out. And the next expert we interviewed was Yongsan District. After we had the intermediate conference, we wanted to search more about the recycling process in Haebangchon. So since Yongsan District collects every type of trash is all mixed, they have no idea if plastic waste has been increased or not in this era. So rather, they talked about the difficulty of disposing box waste. Since Haebangchon has many narrow alleys, it's hard for the trucks to collect trashes, especially boxes, because they take up a lot of space. Also, it was interesting to know that the local collectors are collaborating with government collectors by themselves.
After that, we spoke with Yang Sob from the design department at Seoul National University. He's running projects with his students. Sorry. After that, we spoke with Yang Sob from the design department at Seoul National University. He's been running projects with his students, social design focused projects, looking into waste management and trying to develop novel solutions along with people who work in the waste industry as collectors or sorters. He mentioned the issue of waste and waste management is well documented and well known in the public, by the public. So to make a project really effective, make a difference, it's important to try to connect with a local network rather than approaching the issue from a more broad perspective. So he kind of encouraged us to meet more people in Haebangchon and really try to learn as much as we could about the specific situation there. He gave a really great example of a business set up to combat or reduce plastic waste called the Bottle Factory. And he mentioned that the founder of the Bottle Factory, actually she spent several months personally following the waste collection trucks from the government waste collection trucks to understand how waste travels through the system and where it ends up. Having heard this fact about only 10% of collected plastic being recycled, she wanted to see for herself, is this true? Where does it go? So yeah, she found a lot of it was going to landfill, just being thrown away or burnt. And so to try and do something to reduce the plastic waste, single-use plastic waste, she set up the Bottle Factory, which is a zero-waste cafe. And this is now developed into also a yearly event called Bottle Week, where other cafes and restaurants and members of the local community in Mapo try to also practice zero waste in their cafes or their businesses. And each year, it's been running, I think, 3 years now. It grows in size. So the first one was a week, and maybe 2 other businesses were involved. But now, the one that just finished in 2020, it lasted for a whole month. And many different cafes and also local people were involved. And they even developed an augmented reality app to help people track how much plastic they were preventing from going to landfill by using reusable containers or not taking unnecessary plastic bags, this sort of thing. Yang-Sop also mentioned some advice for engaging, since he has the first-hand experience of engaging with the waste workers, should be very respectful and patient when trying to engage with them, as they're very busy and have a lot of pressure on their job. And also to find some sort of network hub, like a cafe where they all go, or a seniors club, or some social club, and make friends with someone like the boss of the recycling center who knows everyone and can connect you. Moving on. We spoke with Annika Kapulsi, who is a professor at Hongik, and she is primarily a visual communication professor. So she studies her PhD study was about the waste system in Hong Kong, and understanding that through the lens of visual communication. What can the way the waste system manifests physically tell us about the social issues or the power dynamics that kind of create it? So she gave, in her work, she spends a lot of time building a systemic overview and map of how the waste system worked, and trying to understand the different actors with all very unique lives and perspectives, all doing very small jobs which all feed into each other and to build this whole system. And one very interesting part of her PhD thesis was that she compared the interviews with people who work in the waste industry with artists and photographers and creative people, artists, to see what similarities in their perspectives she could, or differences she could uncover. Yep, so those were our interviews, which kind of expanded on the initial references and research we'd done. And moving on from that, we decided, there we go. What's it? There. So we were wondering, we really wanted to do work which engaged with the community, but since social distancing was in effect and lots of events were being cancelled or postponed, I can see there, we needed to find a safer way to involve people at a distance. And so we settled on the idea of designing a video game. This also, we think, is by presenting our research through an interactive story in the context of a video game, the research can become more engaging and people can kind of develop a personal relationship somehow with it. And it also gives us the opportunity to be more speculative and suggest kind of a slightly unbelievable or, fictional future scenario, which the purpose of which isn't to explicitly illustrate what's happening in the waste management system, but rather imagine what could happen in the future. So I'll briefly talk through the narrative of the world in our game. So it's set in the year 2058, and 1348 AD, a new novel coronavirus, a new variant, has increased the need for radical social distancing. So people are confined completely to their own houses. At the same time, the rise of renewable energy sources has meant that oil companies and the industry have increased plastic production to keep the oil as a relevant product. And then in an effort to control this never-ending flow of materials, plastics, new cities are built entirely from plastic, or increasingly. At the same time, each neighborhood has its own artificial intelligence, which helps care for it and manage the plastic which is being brought into the community as waste. And many machines have also been designed to turn waste into useful building material by melting it, mixing it in different ways. This constant mixing of plastics has created unexpected new polymers and materials which have qualities never thought possible before. So for example, like these artificial intelligences, some of the plastics have developed sentience, so they're alive and can think and have their own, they have their own will. And they kind of direct the behavior of smaller pieces of this plastic. Due to the fact that all these materials are being mixed together, it's very rare to find a single polymer, pure plastic anymore, and so it's become incredibly expensive, and this is the sort of new currency of the world. And most of the people themselves live inside, as I mentioned, confined to their houses, eating delivery food and watching their screens. So yeah, the semi-sentient plastic creatures run about the heavily polluted cities doing tasks for the humans, from farming to delivering food. If I go into a bit more detail, it's not, can you? Thanks. So the reasoning behind the new COVID variant in the game is the connection between COVID and climate change, or COVID and climate. Ecosystem and habitat destruction, which is caused by climate change and the things we're doing to cause climate change, means animal populations crowd more, and it increases the chance of zoonotic disease transfer, so animal diseases coming to humans. And the warming of the climate also increases the range of environments that viruses can spread into, so things like malaria, which is currently confined mostly to countries around the equator, could spread into so a wider area. So climate change and these diseases are totally linked together. The increased plastic, as I kind of mentioned, the plastic production and collection has been increasing year on year for a long time now. And a symptom of the shift to renewable energy could be that oil not being used for fuel is instead turned into plastic. I think this is increasingly happening. And then life organized into neighborhoods. The need for social distancing, it will restrict long-distance movement. A good side effect could be that groups of people could form stronger social ties with their immediate neighbors, which is like what we'd like to suggest in our game. And then learning from the plastic currency project, we imagine that AIs could be used to manage and sort the waste that's coming into the world, to kind of assign it to different repair or building projects that happen within any neighborhood. So the reason, this is a kind of spoiler, we'll show the game at the end, and you play as a Plakimon, a piece of this sentient plastic. And the idea is that by playing as a piece of plastic, you really focus on the raw material rather than products. And it makes you think about the value of plastic in itself. It's something we can easily forget. By collecting waste, you maybe helps you to understand the physical labor that goes into the waste management system. I'm going to skip past this part. And I think, can you go on? Go on to talk about the players.
Yeah, so, sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. If I go into like a little bit of background story of how we come up with the game, is that we didn't really plan to come up with the game at the first place. We were thinking to build a cool workshop where people can meet up and build a cool object which can be used in lifetime in our life, like a cup, such as a cup or bowl or pencil case, or sort of we wanted to come up with a workshop form, but since COVID-19 has affected our workshop plan, we had to come up with the other plan. And interestingly, if we're looking at the team, he's good at the programming and also building up all the storylines, and Lucas can see the background of view, not the background of view. Yeah, right. Yeah, and Daye is the architecture who could come up with the word can be in a visualized word. Word can be visualized, and I'm an artist who making like a cute characters and playing around with it. So three of us somehow, when Luke told us like, oh, what about the game idea, and we all agreed like, okay, this is cool, and who is doing what, and it all set up in one place that, yeah. So this is how we came up with the game. So, and I proudly can say that like a character came out like briefly, and also words that visually amazing, and also that we are working on the game structure. So yeah, so this is a little bit of background, the story how we could come up with the game idea. And actually this the little plucky, as you can see here. So this character is a user. So whenever you play the game, you become the person, or you become the game character, and you are fully committed with it, and you just be able to see the world, the view of the character itself. So so this is a player, and you're gonna see like how it's and this user, this player, this character will we are running around the city and running around the place around, and do the task of save the world to be a better place. Yeah, and next. Yeah, and this is a totally workshop idea which we came up with, and we started to ground all the plastic bottles, and we shred them, and we came up with this cool pencil case. And we were doing, we were playing, since we planning to have a workshop, we had kind of experimental activities we were doing like 2 or 3 times in a week. And we built this pencil case, and we were thinking how to make different shapes, and we also tried to collect the furniture from around the town, city, and try to build something. Yeah, but since we had this kind of activities, we made we came up with a 3 character which we material-wise friendly with. Next. So we sat down together, and we drew the characters and idea of the word, and we start to structuralize how this game going to be look like. So we came up with this 3 characters. So we haven't given them name yet, but obviously by our activities plan, we could come up with the name of each different types of plastics. So HDPE is a kind of high density plastic which can melt it together and very strongly form together, which means that like a strong and could be chubby and muscly. So it's a kind of the word you can see itself is that like very strong. So this character I set up as a strong character, and also the texture which we got from the workshop plan we had, and the experimental which we were doing. I picked some texture from the activity which we were doing. And PET is usually PET, so I thought that thought that it could be nice to have a transparency, and look gave a new idea to like the half of character can be transparent so that it can be look more like a PET bottle. And the PP is like we very struggled to come up. It's very soft material, so as you can see, it's a very soft looking, and also, of course, I love chubby characters, so it's a kind of chubby, cute character look like. We were very struggle to melt them together to form it, but because of it was too soft, so I could remember that idea and also experiences to come up with this cute 3 characters. Yeah.
The next part is the environment, and the game environment is the future image of Haebangchon as we imagined. Each house is a unit that can be built and repaired by Plakimos. And the building materials are recycled plastic collected from the village by Plakimos. There are a maker hub and warehouse that Plakimos can visit to change the collected plastics into useful products. And the Plakimons also collect vegetables from the rooftop garden to provide to the humans. The humans remain inside the units all the time for social distancing. There's a huge hole in one side of the map, which is called the trash source. And huge plastic trash is thrown out of the hole. The trash source represents large corporations and government supporting those corporations. And when the Plakimos finishes all the tasks, they jump into the recycling hole to recycle themselves. The textures in the environment are photos of building materials and street signs of Haebangchon. We collected the textures from the observational walk and 3D scan in Haebangchon. So the next part is the exhibition that is planned next month, and we are preparing the game that we introduced. There will be a warehouse and maker hub like in the game environment, and the trashes collected and classified from Habangchon will be exhibited in the warehouse with QR codes. When activated, the QR codes will show the AR version of Pokemons. The Pokemons will introduce their stories, including the stories from our interviews. And there will also be a real-sized Pokemons made with different types of plastics, like Yo-Yo introduced, HDPE, PP, and PET. People can put their plastic trashes into the characters by their types. People can also check out required devices to recycle plastics in their homes, such as shredder, heat gun, sandwich toaster, magic gloves, or metal balls. So this is all things that we prepared, and we'll move on to the game demonstration.
So we have a rough, we have the different parts of the game we can show. Can I share my screen whilst you're sharing your screen? You need to end your screen share. Oh. 괜찮아요? 잠시만요. Okay, that's good. So the game starts by selecting our language and choose Hangul or English. I'm going to choose English. Works in both. So the first part, Plaki, the neighborhood AI, will introduce themselves. And ask you to introduce yourself. Please tell me which type of plastic polymer you are. And you'll be able to select from HDPE. You can imagine Yo-Yo's beautiful characters here rather than... Is my mic off? No? Huh? Huh? Rather than these cylinders. So I'm going to select PP. And then here Daye's environment will be, and Plaki will give you an introduction to the different parts, as Daye mentioned, the maker hub, the trash source, the human houses, and the camera will fly around the map and show you the different places. Once you learn about that, you'll arrive in the world, and you can look around, you can jump, and there'll be some different tasks for you to do. Each type of plastic has their own task to complete. So I'm playing as PP, so I need to deliver some food. So I can walk over here, and there's a food parcel for me to collect, so I'll collect it, and you can see it's been added to my inventory, and I need to take it to house number 4810, which is here, and I'll deliver it. And then maybe I feel like I've done enough work for today, so I'll jump into the recycling chute to recycle myself, and it'll tell me my score. And that's it. That's the rough skeleton. And then Yo-Yo is going to show you his characters in more detail, and Daye will talk you through the environment a little bit. Stop share. Shall I give you this? Hey.
Is it sharing?
You just got to zoom in.
And this one. Oh. Yeah. Hello, this is HDPE. Yeah, so cute character. So I'm using the program, open program called Mixamo to animate the characters. And as you can see, the built-in character, I designed it, and I did put a little bit of chubby vibes and also T-pose types of character. And once it's set it up into Mixamo, which I use oftenly, it gives the animation to the motion that I wanted to give. So since it's a chubby character, I don't want to say chubby, muscly character. Yeah, if I want to give him walking, but in a little bit of a proud look like, yeah, this is how he walking around. Yeah, and if I put the learn, then this kind of learning motion that I can export and putting into the Unity to make it into the game form. So so each different character has their own vibes. So the PP is more chilly walking style like, and also PET is very floppy and also running around. Yeah, so this is the character development which we have insofar. So as you could see from Luke's presentation, imagine that like this cute muscly character into the game to bring out the little bit of vibes into it. So yeah, wait for it. So next.
So the character was kind of the climax, and this is the environment I introduced earlier. And these are the units that humans live in. They are just remain inside for the social distancing, and all of these merge together to make this game environment. And this part is the warehouse and maker hub, where the Plakimos go to collect plastic and make some valuable products with the plastic. And this is the hole that Plakimos throw themselves to be recycled. And the player can just go to the place using the upper surface of the units, and also can look out to see that trash is coming out from the holes. And we tried to merge all the things together, and we just checked that it works, and just have to finalize everything in just is it? So that was everything about the game.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. It was quite interesting to see the games, and then I think practice. Cute and friendly. But can people manipulate this game easily, or because yeah, I know how do they manipulate it. If you, I mean, if you want to, you know, if you start this game, and then if you, you know, maybe if people has a chance to manipulate this game, and then I don't know how easy to manipulate this.
We'll also create a controller. So at the moment, it plays with just the keyboard. So use that arrow key to walking around and mouse to click the menus. So yeah, it's a very normal way to interact with game. Yeah, we'd like to build a sort of arcade style controller, maybe with big buttons, so it feels more, yeah, more exciting than laptop keyboard. Yeah, it will be able for people to play.
Because I also look at the axonometric image. I think it's your idea of the exhibition, right? So consider the exhibition. I think also maybe we can consider, is there any other tool than a mouse that can be operating without touching? Because, you know, using keyboard and the mouse, people have to touch and then scroll it. And then we also need to think about, in this situation, what do we think about the touching for manipulating or operating the game?
One plan we will try is to have their game online. So actually people can just play by their handphone. And yeah, by their own device. It's more difficult, but it's the ideal result. Otherwise, yeah, it's more difficult to play by physical touching. We need to think about more.
Ideally, there is a sensor can track the body, and it can be more interaction parts, but we haven't really researched about like how difficult that is. So we'll see about.
Once I saw this image, and then I also think it's very interesting to you know, have this kind of condition for the game, and then to get all the information about your research. But at the same time, I can also see all the physicality, and then they have to sit somewhere and then touch something. Of course, we have to do. I mean, of course, we have to touch something to get something. But maybe it's also, we also need to think about new way of doing, yeah, for it. So that's what I'm just thinking while I'm watching this, your idea of the exhibition. Yeah.
That's a fair point, and what we imagined when we were designing this space was like kids playing inside the center and just touching everything and just lively atmosphere. But right now, maybe that's not possible for kids to do that in this center. So I think we have to develop through the next month as we plan for the exhibition. So
that's great. Yeah, that sounds great. I haven't really checked the YouTube, but there are several comments and also questions on the YouTube. I just briefly looked at it, and then one question about, do you think the international elements characteristic in Haebangchon area helps with the increase of the recycling activity?
Actually, when we set up the place basement, our like project basement place as a Haebangchon, we were thinking a lot how our activity could be connected with the community closely, and also how we could involve the community people in our project. So that's why we set it up the workshop at the first place. But like more important, my point of view is more important what we to involve into getting into more community more deeply. We just to do what we're doing and share with the people around. I think that's the most effective way to involve people from the community in COVID situation. So we're developing the game, but it also relates with somehow it relates to the Haebangchon issues, because Haebangchon area, because we're putting it a sign somehow. But more important thing is that we just share this game with the community around, kids and others, or we just letting people know like what we're doing, and that's one starting point to involve into community, and also community people to know what you're doing. So yeah, so I think characterized and relate with Haebangchon, I think it can be the answer.
Thank you for the answer. I think for this team, because the panel discussion will not be held for this team. So, I mean, if you want to have any comment during your research, and then how you felt while you're, conducting your research or creating the new game for this research, and then if you have any, want to say something, yeah. Like a statement.
If I say from what we personally learned or how we personally feel, it's been a very good opportunity for the three of us, all with different skills, to learn and figure out how we can work together and how we can complement each other. None of us ever made a game before, but it turns out that to make a game you need an architect, an artist, and a designer, and everyone can do certain parts of the job. So for us personally, it's been a really nice process of working together and learning something new.
Great, yeah.
Like during this the project we are working on, what I mostly concentrate on was if it's not fun, then the project will die. That's what my point was. So I try to have fun hanging around, and also we meet oftenly and thinking about discuss about what's the way forward. We do the Zoom chat and talking about like how we could present our research into what form, and also what we learned, and share the ideas and what's the way forward in general. It was very exciting and also very meaningful for me to, for me personally, to have this cool team
For me, it was good to know about Haebangchon, which is the kind of the place I most like. And since we met there all the time, I kind of knew many new things about the area that I didn't know before, like all the interviews from experts and the trash recycling systems. But it would be better to know more about the community itself, but the COVID situation was like more harsh than we originally thought, so that's the sad part, I think, and maybe we can develop that part for the future, because I think we're gonna keep doing this project for like after this WTA ends. So please wait for it.
Okay, thank you. We'd like to wrap up this conference, and then 존하모 부회장님 has been waiting for a long time, and then I'd like to introduce 존하모, who is the chairman of this open call committee member. So he will give us a closing statement. 부회장님 안녕하세요. 네, 오래 기다리셨죠?
네, 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요. 저희 이제 5팀의
늦게
그 모든 네, 지금 다 끝내서요. 네, 그 클로징 인사를
네.
해주시면 감사하겠습니다.
네, 네. 그럼 시작할까요? 네.
네, 부탁드리겠습니다.
네. 네, 안녕하십니까? 저는 그 WTA 오픈콜 국제 공모회 위원장을 맡은 한국건축가협회 대외 부회장 조남우입니다. 지난해 코비드19가 발생한 이후에 1년의 시간이 흐른 현재도 우리는 함께 모여 사는 규범, 또 공존의 장으로서 건축과 도시의 근원을 다시금 돌아보게 하는 장면을 매일의 일상에서 목도하고 있습니다. 인류가 경험한 수많은 전염병 때마다 도시는 큰 충격들을 겪었지만 이후에 우리는 끈질기게 그 생명을 회복하곤 했습니다. 그럼 그 과정은 어떠했으며 또 초연결 시대의 코비드19의 상황에서는 또 어떻게 다를까요? 그러니까 미래는 어느 때보다도 불확실하지만 많은 사람들의 그 선제적인 예측과 어떤 상상을 필요로 합니다. 그래서 우리는 그 지어진 도시와 앞으로 그 살아갈 도시 사이의 간극을 관찰하고 기록하고 성찰한 조각들을 모아서 미래를 상상할 지도를 그려가야 합니다. 그래서 서울 도시건축 전시관과 한국건축가협회는 이 상황을 묻는 WTA 오픈콜 국제 공모를 준비하게 된 것입니다. 이번 오픈콜은 성급한 해법보다는 최선의 질문을, 경쟁보다는 협력으로, 또 결과보다는 열린 과정을 통해서 위기에 대처하는 지구적인 공론의 장을 구축하고자 했습니다. 그리고 이 모든 과정은 하나의 과정형으로 진행했습니다. 오픈 플랫폼을 통한 다양한 분야 간 협력과 연대로 거주 환경의 위기 상황과 새로운 도전의 지형도를 함께 그려보기를 제안했습니다. 이 협력과 연대 플랫폼을 우리는 What is to be asked 플랫폼, 즉 WTA 플랫폼이라고 이름했습니다. 1단계 공모 과정의 WTA 플랫폼에서는 세계 여러 지역의 참가자들 간의 활발한 공론의 과정이었고, 그 과정을 통해서 123개의 제안이 접수되었습니다. 공모위원회는 내부 논의와 참가자들과의 열린 토론을 통해서 2단계 연구와 제안을 진행할 5개 팀을 선정하였습니다. 2단계 연구 제안은 8월 17일부터 연구 기간이 종료되는 오늘까지 약 5개월간 진행되었습니다. 오늘은 최종 성과를 공유하는 컨퍼런스를 통해서 5팀의 그간의 연구 성과를 소개하는 주제 강연과 패널들의 토론이 있었습니다. 이 연구 성과들은 3월 예정으로 서울도시건축전시관 비움홀에서 아카이브 전시됩니다. WTA 플랫폼에 올려주신 1차 때의 자료들을 포함해서 전시가 됩니다. 기존에 참여하셨던 주제 제안 섹션은 협업과 연대를 위한 공론장으로 지속적으로 운영됩니다. 전시 콘텐츠에 참여를 원하시는 분들의 많은 관심을 부탁드립니다. 코비드19 상황에서 협업과 연대를 위해 그동안 오픈콜에 보내주신 관심에 대해서 다시 한번 감사드립니다. 감사합니다. 네.
감사합니다, 부회장님. 네, 정말
네.
그 말씀하셨던 것처럼 약 5개월이 넘는 시간 동안 이렇게 이 프로그램을 기획하시고 또 지금 이런 종료하는 시점에서 너무 많은 그 조언과 애써주셔서 너무 감사드린다는 말씀 드리고 싶습니다. 네. 그리고 그 5팀의 네, 말씀 주세요.
네, 서도건의 멤버들이 너무 긴 시간 동안 많은 애를 쓰셨습니다. 네, 감사드립니다. 네.
네. 하지만 저희는 이거를 또 이제 조금 더 의미 있는 전시로 또 보여주려고 해서 사실 저희는 네, 조금 더 이제 이것들을 이 컨텐츠들을 또 의미 있는 어떤 형태로 또 만드는 작업을 또 하기 또 최선의 노력을 다해야 될 것 같아요. 네, 그래서 지금 연구는 끝나셨지만 저희는 조금 더 이제 부탁도 드리고 요청도 하면서 만들어 나가려고 합니다. 그래서 계속 관심 가져주시고 저희도 계속 많은 부분 또 말씀드리고 조언을 구하도록 하겠습니다. 네. 오늘 발표해 주신 분들도 너무 수고하셨고 수개월 동안 연구에 정말 많은 시간과 노력을 애써 주셔서 정말 감사하다는 말씀을 드리고 싶고요. 그럼 이것으로 저희가 5개월 동안 이어온 WTA 오픈콜의 결과성과 컨퍼런스를 마치도록 하겠습니다. 너무 감사합니다. 수고하셨습니다. 감사합니다.